Hey, welcome to Storytime with Ellie podcast, and I am Ellie. And today, with me live, I have Eric. And with Eric, we're going to be talking about relationships and whatever we want to talk about.
Right
relationships.
Right on.
And yeah, well, let's go. No, since it's Sunday night, I'm sure you want to get home.
Well, thanks for having me on, Ellie.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that you were able to, with your busy job, you're able to show up here and do this. Thank you. I was hoping you weren't going to cancel. I was like, oh.
Absolutely not. Yeah, it's an honor and a privilege.
Thank
Glad
you.
to
Yeah,
be
you
here.
too. Yeah, yay.
We'll have a lot of fun.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. But Eric, we're just going to jump right into this. Do you mind talking a little bit about yourself?
Oh, sure. Sure.
You know, what do you do and
So,
married? No, I'm joking.
Already you're doing that?
already.
Wait, listen, I thought I had a proposal. Someone I thought was on the line asking me if I think of marrying.
Okay, a little bit about me. I'm from a small town in the Midwest.
Okay.
Really normal upbringing. Joined the military right out of high school. Mm-hmm. From there, I got into the aviation field, and I've been doing that the last 28 years.
Wow.
Aerospace and aviation, and now I live in the area and managing jets here locally.
Oh, cool. Okay. Wow. Nice.
What do you mean by managing jets though? Like you like telling them where to go, doing inventory? Like what do you mean?
Oh, yeah, great question. So over the years, I developed kind of a knack for the technical aspect of aviation, diagnostic, how do they operate, things like that. So I'm really a glorified mechanic.
Okay.
The reason why I'm asking this question because I love planes and jets, right? But here's the thing: I'm 6'3", around 300 pounds. I was never going to be fit in an airplane. So did you have that issue too? Like you wanted to be a pilot, and you're like, yeah, because you're kind of a big guy too. So be honest.
And when I was in the military, I did get to do a lot of flying, spent a lot of time on airplanes, and that's kind of how I got into the field to begin with. I was watching the guys fix these things and do what they do. And, I took flying lessons a few times, and it wasn't really my appeal.
Okay. So you didn't want to get in that, you didn't worry about your height getting in that small plane.
Right. I was more interested in like the mechanics of it.
Okay, cool.
The machinery.
Now, do you work local? Are you with the MCO, jets, or 747s? What kind of planes do you work on?
So more along the lines of like private business jets.
Oh, okay.
It's really discretionary, so I try not to.
Of course, yeah. If it's not like JetBlue or United Airlines, you better not talk about it.
Exactly.
I get you. Okay,
Right on,
cool. Very
right
cool.
on.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
So that's me.
We get it.
That's me in a nutshell.
Did you hear that, girls? He works in his private planes.
Hey,
He's got some private planes.
let's go for a flight.
Yeah, every now and then.
Okay, cool. I'll see that. If we need a ride, we're going to call you.
No.
Oh, cool.
That'd be interesting.
Very cool.
So Ellie, I'm going to put the phone number on the screen. So if anybody wants to call in, there's a number there: 352-717-4071. And again, this show is about dating in 2023 and beyond. So I know, Ellie, you're going to get into some juicy stuff. So
Oh.
Oh.
you ready? We got a comment here. I don't know who that is, but they say, "What's up, big boy?" Don't know who that is, but
Do we know who that is?
No clue.
Oh, okay.
No clue.
well, I guess you got a fan.
Oh, you got a fancy. There we go. Okay, cool. Okay, so that relationship. So you were married, and you're not married now.
Correct. That's
Right.
correct. Yeah. Married, divorced 11 years ago. Had a really, really good relationship after marriage. Mm-hmm. Went on for 6-7 years. Wonderful person. Really went really well. I would consider it successful. We had a career geography issue that ended the relationship ultimately, but it was really strong. Really, really great situation, amicable, split, and that was a few years ago. Mm-hmm. So since then, it's just been navigating the singles world, dating casually, and trying to see what you can ultimately find.
Right. And what's your biggest challenge so far that you've faced being single? Because many of us are out there. We're single, and
That's a great question. So post-COVID,
oh yeah,
the dynamic has changed a lot, and a lot of folks, you're not really meeting people in the same type of environment that you did 5, 10, 15 years ago. I think it's turned into who contacts me on social media, who contacts me on the apps or whatever. So I think that's how people are meeting each other now versus in the, we'll say, traditional sense, where you just introduce yourself to somebody and start a dialogue. I think that's started to become not the norm.
No, it's obsolete.
Right, for the most part. So so the challenge is if you're busy, you're working, you're always tending to your daily life, where do you fit in time to go meet people, or how do you meet people?
Agree, and I think many of us have that same perspective on that. And when you're busy to go out, it's time consuming. It's time consuming, and nobody. I feel there's a lot of people that don't want to. They want instant too. Did you ever notice that?
Absolutely.
They want instant, like
instant gratification.
And there's not even. I found like there's really not many. It's not even much of a meetup. It's more like I'm talking about the dating sites. Let's you know what? Let's twist. Let's go into the dating sites.
Okay.
And we've all experienced those. And what I found with those, and I'm sure you probably have too, that when you're on there, they're trying to say contact you, but instead of getting off the app, and this is the conversation we have a lot, or just meet up and just call it a day. They ask you. It's like you're getting drilled.
Yeah.
They want to know how long you've been married, how many men you've dated, how many kids you have. Did you still want kids? You're not going to want kids. Of course you don't want kids. It's like weird. There's no.
Why did your last relationship end?
Yeah.
What did you do? What are you hiding? Are you married? All the it's a million questions. So
it's a turnoff.
it starts to become kind of
a job.
It's almost intrusive at some point where you're like, well, what did I sign up for here? It feels somewhat awkward. Yeah,
it does. And what do you think would make it less awkward? What's your thought on that?
Well, I think there's a couple things. 10, 15 years ago, I think that people went into those type of, sites like, there's the big ones out there that people pay for. And I think they went into it with the intention of meeting someone in the traditional sense. They just didn't have time to go and meet people. And in today's day and age, I think it's used as more of a tool for people to almost, at the risk of sounding, almost bringing it back to social media, I think a lot of people use it as a validation tool.
Yes, I agree with that. Yes.
So, and the reason I say that is, I've tried two of the app type based sites, and it was very awkward for me because I would talk to people and they'd say, I've got 500, 800 people messaging me a day. And I was like, oh, wow. Well, that's basically the equivalent of posting the best pictures of yourself on a social media site to see who reacts in a positive manner to what you posted. I think that is almost what's been happening is, and back to instant gratification, you post the best you on these sites,
right?
And you're looking for a reaction out of. It's almost as if people are looking for a reaction out of it.
Like an ego boost. You think it's more of an ego boost?
Whereas,
or like I said, validation to see that how many people they can get. Is that what you think?
It could be. And then they just say, well, now I've got so many options now that how do I pick the one that's most beneficial to me versus who's the person I could essentially, mate with and fall in love with. I think it's divided.
Too many. I agree. I agree with that.
Too many.
Yeah. There's so many. And then it gets, like you said, like anything else, then you're like, oh my God, there's just too many. It's like, you don't have time. And then you go after the next thing because.
Or they get burned out.
That's what I mean. You just get like, this is like overbearing.
Yeah.
Now, what would you think would be a good idea to say, like you're on, let's say dating site, because most of us, we've all tried it and we've been on it. And I don't know, some people do have success on it. But what's your opinion on that? Like if somebody's on there and they got 700 people calling them to talk to them, what do you do as a man? Let's say, what do you do when all these women are like hitting on you or texting you or calling you saying you're whatever?
Okay, so I think the first thing to understand is the experience on a site like that is going to be different for a guy than it is for a lady. You know, it's boils down to numbers, right? If I'm a successful, I have to assume I'm just going to jump on the other side for a second and say if I was a high value lady that is looking to find a relationship and find a partner that, to really have a healthy relationship with, they're only going to maybe target 10, 15 people. But if I'm a guy, my experience is totally different. I'm looking at the law of numbers. I'm going to swipe right on 500, 600, 700 people.
Yeah, we've heard that before.
Right? That's what people are going to do.
Yeah, we've heard that.
So they're just taking their chances of who will respond to me. Right? So I think if people went into it with knowing that they were trying to date with intention, so to speak, they really were trying to do what they set out to do, I think the numbers would be smaller and they have a smaller target audience of who they're actually trying to be with and the type of person they'd like to meet.
Right.
I think it gets a little lost in the sauce, as they say.
Yeah, I get it. So probably for the most part, I don't think they should open all the people that respond to them.
Right.
And even yourself, I think too, if you're in there and you're looking, stop swiping.
Stop swiping.
Swipe or stop. Why just swipe or stop? What was that? Swipe or stop swiping?
Swipe or no swiping.
I just saw that yesterday in the movie. I saw something. My grandkids.
Just stop swiping.
Yeah, stop swiping. And I think, pick one or two and stop.
Yep.
They should make it. That should be a site. You should only allow to pick one or two people a day. That's a good site.
Ellie, there you go.
Yeah, here I am, another business. But make it like
that exists out there. They have the matchmaker services. What's the one? Talkify. They do that.
Oh, and what does that mean? What does that do?
Oh, okay, so I think you actually hire somebody and they go out and do your bidding on your behalf. So
how much?
I have no idea.
15,000.
Is it?
I heard.
Oh. Well, if you're gonna serial date, you might be at 15 grand anyway.
Yeah.
So what?
Oh, that's true too. By the time you get them taking it. Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Okay. What's your thought? Like if you find somebody on the site and you say you're going to go out, do you think that you should have to pay for the bill? Or do you think it should be a mutual?
So I'm gonna get a lot of flack. For this. I'm old school. My parents raised me kind of in an old fashioned sense. If I'm asking somebody out and making the plans, I intend to pay for it, and even if it's the first meeting,
even if it's the internet, even if it's a dating site.
So
there's a lot of women that'll go on there and they'll just go on just to go get a meal.
Free food.
Yeah.
Found that out. So you got to
okay.
So you got to do a better job of selecting who you're actually going to go out with. I think that's really where you're at, and then it won't be 100 dates. It'll be 5 or 8 until you find somebody that might be a compatible match.
Gotcha.
Right. So on the other side of that, if you're gonna try and target this giant audience, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure anyway, because now you yourself are looking at all these options that you have or potential options, and half of them are a bad idea to start with. You just haven't realized it yet. But you're going to go down that path anyway, trying to find happiness, trying to find that other person, and you've picked a swath that's too wide.
Right.
And you didn't really narrow in on what you set out to find anyway. Mm-hmm. I think that happens.
Do you think we focus too much on appearance and not the what's inside or getting to know somebody?
Well,
online, I'm going to say yes.
Online, I think people are compelled to look at what's appealing to them visually first. That's the first step, is what was visually appealing to me. And then once I get them to respond to me, maybe then I'll dig deeper into who they really are.
Right.
But I think people do focus a little too much on the physical appearance. People ask me all the time, they're like, what's your first quality you look for in somebody? And it's like, oh, it's automatic. Sweet person, good person, good intentions, good morals. That's the number one. Where, those values have kind of taken a back seat to being, social media famous, or what filter could I put on? That's
another thing with the filters.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how people. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to lie about your story, or your profile.
Yeah.
But it's another thing to go physically see them and you can't find them.
you show up at
I always tell that same story. I can't keep telling my same story about the wine.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, you show up at the coffee shop to meet.
You walk past them 15 times,
and you're like, "Oh wow, that's not who I expected."
You need to wear your filter when you're out.
Yeah.
So guys, we got some comments in the chat here. I'm going to put them on the screen. Okay. So first one here is from Natalie. So what are you looking for in your ideal partner? I'm guessing that question is for you, Eric.
Oh, well, thanks for the question. It's a really good question. Ideal partner, and we're talking about me here, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to an earlier comment. You're looking for good morals, sweetness out of a person. I know a lot of guys aren't going to say that. They're not going to tiptoe into that sweetness, but it's a real thing. It's when someone's nice in general, it's really appealing because you get that sense that you can be yourself with that person.
Right.
See, that's first and foremost, is being able to be you. So that nice and sweetness quality is huge. I guess if I could write a wish list for what's my ideal partner, it would be obviously somebody that's well-grounded, well put together, ambitious towards a career of their own, have a life of their own. I think health and fitness is important. Willingness to try some adventures. Life's short. Life's short. We got to go.
Yes, I agree.
We got to go out there and do things. We got to go take the trip. Get out on the ocean, do all the things that we want.
Enjoy life, have fun, just do what you can.
Yes, and then I think, of course, physical attraction is important. I think everybody, women in general, all women are beautiful in their own way. So it's just finding that one that appeals to you. So I hope I answered that.
You did. That's what you feel, and I want to thank the caller for asking that question.
That's a great question.
Yeah, that was a great question.
That was from Natalie.
Natalie, thank you.
So Julie is in the chat here. She got a little typo here, but I'll read the rest of it. She says, "What are you looking for? Some of the men are never going to meet in person, but text forever. Then there's a problem. A man in a relationship."
Oh, absolutely. So, if they're not trying to actually meet in person, there's some underlying things there. Number one, they're not being honest. They are in a relationship. They are hiding that fact by never actually meeting you, and they're just having some fun with you via text. There's that, and that goes both ways for both genders.
Right.
That's my opinion about that. But me personally, the goal is to actually meet the person. Text, call, whatever. But then let's go do something.
Right. Julie, thank you for that question. In fact, Julie was on our show a few weeks back, and she actually made the same comment too about the texting.
Yeah.
If they continually want to text, it's like, that is so wrong. That's a red flag.
And they just don't know how to talk to people.
Right. The communication's not there.
So right there, it's a red. You got to move on. They don't want to meet with you,
Yeah.
and I never thought they could be married too.
Or they're in a relationship,
Yeah.
or they're trying to decide.
In a relationship.
Yeah. Or they're trying to decide if they want to get out of it. Who knows?
So, Ellie, you brought up that website, right? So I guess that it does exist. So the league is a site for high quality singles that only gives 3 options per day.
That's awesome. Whoever brought that up, that is fantastic.
Oh, Laura.
That is a very good place to start.
Yeah.
If you're really trying to meet someone and really move forward in a relationship, I think that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
Here's something else from Julie too.
I agree. Yeah.
Can you read that, Eric? Can you read from here or no?
Oh yeah, I got it.
Talk about red flags you see, Eric, as a man.
Red flags you see that I would see. Okay, this is from my perspective.
Yes. Yeah. These are for you.
Okay, great. Red flags. So a couple that I've come across are what I would call like obsessive behavior. You meet them once, twice, 3 times, and there's an expectation of you that you are forever locked with this person.
Oh, that could be scary.
And you know, I don't want to say that we're just out there goofing around, but there is a little bit of space. I think for guys, you know, 2-3 months in, we're trying to decide, is this now the point where I try to continue to move forward, or is it time for me to get out? I think it takes a few months to know if you want to continue the relationship or not.
And I get that, but don't you think sometimes that's a problem when they're sleeping with you? When a woman is sleeping with the man, that becomes a problem 2 to 3 months out, and you're sleeping with them, and now you're thinking, well, how many other women are they sleeping with?
Right.
So, I mean, you can't sit there and say, don't have sex, but I mean,
right, that's a
but
good
I mean,
point.
you know, it's like, and I think, because I do talk to a lot of women, obviously, and I think that's a big thing. And when would you tell a woman, in your opinion, you might not want to say this, but okay, if they're sleeping with you for 2 to 3 months, would you say for them to go move on, or you're not interested anymore other than sex? Would you say that?
I personally wouldn't. That wouldn't be something I would do. I would recommend that folks take their time before they get physical.
Yes, I agree.
I think people are too quick to take that leap. I would recommend that folks kind of avoid hookups, avoid casual situations. I always, it's not for me, so I don't do that, but I would recommend people take their time with that. If someone's too eager to get into a physical situation, that's probably a red flag. It doesn't have to happen day one or even week one. It's whenever everyone is comfortable.
But that's, I agree. I agree with you because I feel the same way you do with that. But I'm just on the flip side. You'll talk to some women that'll say, I went out with him 2 or 3 times. He doesn't even kiss me, and I'm like, well, that's okay. So right away they're thinking, well, maybe they're not interested in me.
That's a good point.
And then then it's the other way. Then if you sleep too much, go too quick. So
kissing somebody and getting physical is obviously 2 different things. So I would think that after 2-3 dates, I would think you've kissed the person, right?
Right. If you're interested, if you're not, then to move off.
Yeah, you're reading the signals. You're paying attention. You're being attentive to the person that you're with, and you should be picking up on whether you guys are having chemistry, and the chemistry is the real answer to what you do as far as holding hands, kissing the other person, or even taking it further. It's all about the chemistry that's happening between the two of you. I kind of want to circle back to Julie's red flag question.
Oh, go right ahead.
So, because I don't know that I really answered what she asked completely. So, I think if someone...
Did I step on you?
No, you didn't. You didn't. I think I stepped on myself.
Hey, we got time. Let's just...
I think if someone is trying too hard, too fast, that's probably a red flag. If someone is avoidant behavior, that's a red flag. They're hiding something. If they don't, as far as the phone thing, the texting and calling and response time, everyone has their phone on them all the time. Mm-hmm. They do. If it's taking a day for someone to respond, they're trying to avoid you.
Okay, that's a good one right there.
Oh, I know where that's going to go.
The ghost. Let's get the ghost. Let's bring the ghost in the room.
Okay.
Let's get that ghost.
So,
All right. What about the ghosting?
So
Is that a red flag?
so there's two. I thought about this. I've thought about this a lot. Defining ghosting. So if you've been dating somebody for 6 months and all of a sudden you cannot contact them, that's what I would call like a real ghost situation.
Oh yeah,
right?
that's like getting murdered.
Right. That is a whole. And then there's we've been talking for a couple of weeks and all of a sudden he's unresponsive or she is unresponsive. So you got kind of two different things that are happening there. I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier. So instant gratification is my theory.
Right.
My theory on ghosting is that it was so easy to find and meet and date a person because of the social media, the sites, all the different ways they have to meet people. And it works in reverse order with the ghosting is it's just that easy to get rid of somebody. Right? That's kind of a theory I've been thinking about lately. If it was that easy to get in this situation with this person, it's just the same. They don't have to go through the difficult conversation. They don't have to deal with the backlash of the breakup. And it's instant gratification to just block the person.
Right. See, which could be very frustrating to a lot of people, but
sure could.
It goes back to it seems it's just I won't say an old concept, but it is closure.
Closure.
People like, well, why wouldn't they at least, say I don't want to talk to you anymore, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that. They just don't. They just go.
People are so afraid of conflict.
Yeah.
Conflict.
Do you think there should be closure when you if you're seeing someone for a couple of months or you have whatever you're intimate with this person and then you stop calling them? Do you think you owe that to that person to say, hey, listen, it was fun, but I gotta go.
So
and then block them.
So that's a great way to put that.
That's why they know.
I talked to a friend of mine about this, and the way that she explained it to me was, get everything out there, have the conversation, have the difficult conversation with the person, be respectful, and that goes way past just the ghosting topic. Everyone needs to be a little bit more respectful.
I agree.
Out there in general.
I agree.
So, unless you were being underhanded in your intent, why can't you have a quick conversation to say, look, this isn't working for me anymore, and if there's a need for the reason to come up, if it's obvious and the other person wasn't reading the room properly, they should have probably known that it wasn't working. But if not, if the explanation is needed, just say, look, this is the reason that I didn't feel we should continue.
Right. I agree.
And then depending on the backlash you get, there's going to be people that are, emotionally intelligent. They're going to say, okay, I understand where you're coming from, and I did do that. And we didn't have the chemistry or whatever the situation was that led to the end. Mm-hmm. And they're going to understand it. But then you're also going to have the other side where someone is going to blame you for the entire.
Well, then that's their problem. And that's when you ghost them.
Right. And that's so you try to have the conversation, and then the backlash starts coming, and now it's abusive, verbally abusive. And it's like, well, I'm going to leave this person, let them respond for an hour or so let them vent. And then it's time to shut the conversation off.
I think it depends too, on the situation. Because if you were in an abusive relationship or a toxic relationship, I think sometimes that cold break or the ghosting, I think that can help. Because some people you don't owe them an explanation, especially if they abuse you.
I agree with that, Phil, but we're not talking about being abused.
But you never know. You never know.
Well, no. See, I'm talking about a lot of people, and especially women. I mean, I've known, they'll be going out. They go out with a guy a couple times, and then they're like, I don't know what happened. We were going to go out again. They never called me. That's the stuff I'm thinking about. Okay, well, what, that's, or they're just being assholes, and you just got to figure that. You chalk it up as that.
Well, that's a good point, but you got to read the room too. Were you really doing well? Was it really going in the right direction?
Well, they said that. I mean, again, I talked to, because I do coaching too.
Oh,
yeah. So they'll sit there and say, I don't know what was going on. and they seemed like everything seemed fine, and
Sure.
blah 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 blah. I'm like, well, and then I always say the same thing. I'm like, well, there had to be maybe something that led up, and there's like nothing. But so
They just lost interest, or
it could be, or just somebody else came in the picture, or
somebody else came in the picture.
somebody else came in the picture, and I just look at it like it was a bad investment.
Yeah.
It's like investing. You invest in something, it was a bad investment, maybe.
So we got a couple more comments here. This is from Quad Geeks. It's probably going to be cut off again, but this is also a comment and a question. So it says, in reality, there's not a perfect man or a perfect woman. So with that said, the relationship needs a happy medium. And here's the question. It says, how do you put or describe that happy medium in a relationship?
To me or to you?
Well, you could start.
Happy medium. More good times than the good times with the person outweigh the bad.
Independence.
Independence.
Like, right? Two people having their own separate lives, and they come together to make a good connect.
Yeah, they complement each other.
Yeah.
That's
it's hard to, if somebody's too needy, and the other person's not, it's going to wear on the person that doesn't want that. They might not want the neediness. Did we answer that question right?
That's a good way to put that. There's times where you meet someone and you almost get the sense that they're counting on the other person for the whole life.
Oh, that's dependence, codependence.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Then you're like,
that's a good point.
So to make it a good connection, a good relationship, I think everyone's looking for something different, maybe. Yeah. So it's kind of like you got to be happy with yourself, and then someone else should come in and it should complement together. That's
great, the way that you put that.
Something like that, and then feeling good about yourself, that makes a great relationship with somebody, and then you bring it together. One person can't be stronger than the other, or you're always going to have that, but you just have to.
Yeah. People are always out there talking about today. You see it on other podcasts. You see it on social media. You see it all over the place. It's like, what is the other person bringing to the table?
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be in the physical sense. It could be that, this person brings laughter to the table. This person brings family values to the table. This person brings ambition. And we support each other. Now that we've connected, we're in a relationship, that person supports me,
right,
and propels me to be a better person, better version of myself. And together, they're going to be this really strong alpha couple together.
Right.
And I think that's where I see couples that are really successful, and they've been together their whole lives, and they're just beautiful to watch. You see these couples.
Can you think of one that you could talk about? Not that you don't have to name a name, but
no. There's three in my immediate circle that I think of right now today. That I look at their relationships as models of what I would want in my next relationship. I know that these three couples I'm talking about, I know that they're going to be together and for the rest of their lives.
Nice.
They complement each other well. They take care of each other in so many ways, and the love, of course, is there, because without the love being there, they wouldn't take care of each other the way that they do. And I look at them and I watch how they look at each other, and they've been together a long time. One of them is say 10, 12 years together, and the other end of the spectrum is, I think, 25, 28 years together. And I look at the way they look at each other, and that's what I want.
So how would you, I can't even talk. What do you think? Wait, where's the water now?
There's the wine hidden.
Wait, where's that wine now? What would you contribute that to? Like, when you look at them, what would you say makes them that way?
Well,
Phil, shut up! I go back there and beat you.
First, I think the first thing that sets these type of people apart is
my allergies.
I think there's several things that I think that sets them apart from other average couples that are probably going to struggle. Number one, they truly take their commitment seriously. They when they decided to meet this other person and be with this other person, they took that seriously. They really thought about what it means to them to be in that relationship, and they value it.
Nice. Okay.
They value that relationship above all. And when two people are together, and you are supposed to honor that other person as all the way to the end of supposedly forever.
Well, we're living longer, so we can't say forever.
Yeah, so I think the commitment is taken seriously. I think they are true in their intentions towards each other. They don't look for fault in one another.
Right.
That's
nice.
huge, because I'm just going to segue that just for a second. If you're picking at or trying to find things wrong with somebody, you're going to. But if you're looking at that other person as, this is my counterpart, at the end of the day, what are we really doing? The jobs we have, the hard work we put in every day, we're ultimately looking for that other person to be with.
Right.
And I think when those people do that and they really take the commitment seriously, they really focus on, communication is everything. And being true to that other person and not trying to find, short-term gratification outside of the relationship. They're really focused on being together, as they should be. And I think that's what's making them so successful.
Nice. Yeah.
It's wonderful for me to see. It gives me hope.
Right.
So
well, and they're married.
Mm-hmm.
So you hang around like a lot of married couples?
I do. I have several of my circle is predominantly married couples.
Wow. And you know that there's a statistic. Where we're going with this.
I do. I know where we're going with this.
That if you hang out with if you're divorced and you hang out with, I think it's if you're going through the divorce.
Right.
There's a 75% chance that your friends will be divorced as well.
Right.
Did they see that statistic, or did they?
They don't. The people I'm referring to, they're so well grounded and such wonderful people, and they, I don't have any worries about them. Right?
Well, and that's who you are too, because you're grounded. So you're not coming into this marriage saying, "Come on, let's go out, let's do this." You're respecting their unity, their who they are in their marriage. You respect it.
I enjoy being with them together more than I do with being with one or the other of them individually.
Right.
I like being with them as a couple. It's odd for me to be the third wheel. It is at times, but I would rather be with them together than divide them and go out with one or the other of them.
Right. Well, that's rare.
Yeah.
And that is rare, because most of the time it's the guys
Yeah.
wanting to go out together, and that's kind of, I think, what causes the problem.
Right.
With this statistic of 75% of the chance that it would be if your friend wanted to hang out with you and go out with you all the time, that probably would be a problem in the marriage.
Yeah, that probably would create some issues, and
or if she wanted to go out with you all the time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that would be problematic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's gonna, at the root of it, it's ill-intended anyway.
Yeah.
If there's an old saying, nothing good ever came from a boys' night out. Nothing good ever came from that. Right. They're probably right.
Gotcha.
Unless you've got good
values, you got strong values. You all have strong values.
Right. That's right.
It's all good. It's all good stuff. Any other questions, Phil?
Yeah, I actually have one here from myself. So I read somewhere that the top 3 biggest reasons why marriages fail are intimacy. I'm talking about sex, finances, and communication. Based off the two of y'all's relationships, what do you think was the biggest reason that y'all got divorced? Start with Ellie.
You first.
Hard pass. No.
Throw it.
It's going to me first.
Yeah, I already told mine.
But over half of marriages end in divorce.
3 podcasts ago.
No. Yeah.
My last marriage was wonderful. Very good person. Still great friends today. None of the 3 of those was a direct impact of why my last marriage ended, it was a little bit more complicated than that. There was some dynamic outside of those three that caused us to have ultimately it led to bad communication.
There it is.
It did lead to bad communication, but there was an underlying circumstance that made it almost unavoidable. We ended up needing to be geographically displaced for a family member, ill family member, and it led to everyone doubting everybody, and then ultimately I would call that bad communication, because if we were communicating properly, we wouldn't have allowed ourselves to end up in that situation.
And I always, I myself is included. The three had nothing to do with my divorce, but I already spoke about mine.
Well, if only there was a blueprint for divorces. Right, Ellie?
That's my book. You have to read my book. It's sideways.
It's sideways. It won't let me turn it. I tried. Turn your head sideways.
It's all in that book, The Divorce Blueprint.
Did you steal this from my Cliff's Notes? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, it's actually gonna be good. We're still working on it.
I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be good, and it's gonna have a lot of a lot of things we're talking about, but to help you get through those stages of when you decide this is it, we're gonna get divorced.
Yeah, that's where I want to go next. When
you'll have to get a book. Yeah. How do you? I mean, how do you know? It's just, I think you grow apart. I think once you grow apart, and I'm gonna have to say this, and I'm not for everybody, but I do think like infidelity is usually the last straw. Yeah, that's you. Everything else is happening for the most part in your marriage, and unless you, and this is in the book as well, that a marriage is gonna say when it starts to go bad, it's like an illness.
Yeah.
If you catch it fast enough, there's a chance you can recover. Most people, you kind of, I don't say you don't want to, but maybe you don't want to. So you just go and go and go, and then it just eventually just goes, right? And then infidelity creeps in, and it's just all kind of.
Well, yeah, because what's going to happen is that's the substitute for what they wanted to begin with.
Right.
Is as you start going into the rough times, you start having the fights and the arguments, and you're annoyed with each other. Then what's the one thing that you're not having at that point is the one thing you always wanted. So you're gonna try and find that substitute.
Sex, right?
Or
I mean, you could say it.
It doesn't even have to be that. It can just be.
Or is it infidelity? Yeah.
Yeah, closeness with somebody else.
Yeah.
That feeling that when you're talking to somebody and they make you feel good. It doesn't have to be sex. It can be, it can be just that, companionship that you're missing. And when you're going through the doldrums of having a hard time in a marriage, you're gonna wish that you had that, and you're not gonna have it here. So you're gonna try and find it there.
And it does lead into other things.
It does,
and I know because I've lived them.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just does. It's not all. It's the talking, but there's a lot. Yeah.
And unfortunately, what winds up happening in most cases that I've seen that end that way is everyone's full of regret. They're like, this was not what I had hoped it would be. I should have paid more attention to my spouse. I should have put more effort into what I had, because like they say, the grass isn't always greener.
Is that what you think in a lot of, well, they say men regret it more than women. Women usually, once they're set to go, they're gone.
I think in a lot of cases, people rush to judgment on what they think they want. Mm-hmm. And instead of taking the time to figure it out, they rush into making an irreversible mistake. Because once you cross that line, there really is no going back. And some people survive infidelity, most don't.
Right. It's a high percentage of they don't. And it's a hard thing to forgive. But it depends on the situation as well.
Yeah. So
some women, people cut that off. We won't change the subject, but in a lot of marriages, there's a phase that they go through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether it be kids, taking care of your children, and they don't give the attention to the husband as. I hate to say as they should, but or it could be the wife, and
Sure.
and they seek it
Either way.
elsewhere,
Right.
which is very common too.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people end up regretting it. I think they find themselves a few years down the road going, I had a forever partner and I blew it. I blew it because I jumped too soon or I acted too quickly, and now it's irreversible. And I think in a lot of cases, I mean, I'm a hopeless romantic at heart. So
Right. Well, no, I know what you're saying.
I hate that it is that way, but I think a lot of people make that mistake. They go too far too soon, and now it's not fixable.
And it's funny you said that because in my book, I actually had pointed that out. Like before you take that step and say, I'm getting divorced, I say take a trip down memory lane.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Go through pictures. Take some time to think about what you've had together, what you've been through, and how far you've got. I've always, that's actually in my book too. I recommend that.
That circles back to the people that I know and respect that are married couples. They haven't forgot. They never forgot what that was. They made sure to value that other person properly in both ways. And I think that's why they're successful. I have a sneaky suspicion that is why. And I think that's why I'm drawn to people like that. Because if they're successful in that way and they're thoughtful in that way, that's the kind of people I want to be around anyway.
Right.
Right? That's, you want to surround yourself with the type of people that are going to help you be a better person too. And that it's just all those qualities that make up the type of person that you ought to be yourself, and definitely should model yourself after.
We got this is actually a really good question here from Quad Geeks. It's going to be cut off, so I'll actually read it. All right, so what is your opinion of old school marriages where the wife stays home taking care of the house and the kids while the men go out and bring home the bread, versus the new style where both have to go out and work to sustain the house? So what's y'all's opinion on that?
Good questions. Yeah.
To you or to me?
You could start.
Okay.
Because you're.
So I grew up in a household that was exactly modeled after what was described as traditional. My father worked. My mother stayed home and took care of home and kids. It was awesome. I had a very good upbringing, and I watched that, and it was a model for me staying kind of traditional and old-fashioned in many senses. I think today it's evolved a bit that everyone needs to have their own identity. In a traditional, partnership, both parties need to have their own identity. Both need to have their own sense of who they are.
I agree.
There's nothing more attractive than someone who's ambitious and is an achiever and doesn't have to ask permission to do simple things in life. They are strong. That all those are attractive qualities. So I think that
and you're right, and it's a fine line with that question.
It is
about okay, if you take that and say, okay, you got the women that stayed home and they were raised a family the traditional way, and then you have the women today that are out working, and some people say, oh well, the women are working out of their homes, that's what's increase of divorce, which there's a statistic to that as well.
Is there?
But then you take the women that are home. They're unhappy. A lot of those women that were housewives that just sat home. Again, this is not everybody. They were not happy. They didn't feel like they didn't have to work, but a lot of them felt like they were missing out on stuff.
Sure.
And I spoke with the women that have done that. They felt like they didn't belong, and like their husband, it just did not make for a good marriage because their communication was strictly with the kids. They were doing everything with the kids. There was a little bit of a break there.
Makes sense.
And that was back in the day, but it's this way today too. Not everybody, but there are women that can't wait to get back into the work field, to get back out there.
And that's great because
your own identity, what you said before,
identity.
you need your own identity.
Everyone. So I'll go back to my reference points. The folks that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
all of those situations, both parties have their own identity. They have their own things they're into, their own hobbies, their own career fields. Each one of them has unique skill sets.
Nice, and that's probably why they're confident with themselves.
Right. I think it builds
and that's
confidence.
Yes, and that's what you need, and that's why you can have a great relationship. Because a lot of the other relationships that get flimsy, they feel like there's something missing because it's almost like say you find your equal. You try to find like an equal.
That's great that you said that. I'm gonna tell you something that I didn't even think about till just now. A lot of people I've met over the past few years. Obviously, obviously I date women. The several that I've talked to, they've said that their significant other or their boyfriend or husband wanted them kind of closed off from their friends, closed off from and they didn't like it. And that's not something that you want to impose on somebody. That's a type of control that we shouldn't be exercising. Everyone should be allowed to be who they want to be. If they want to have a sense of identity and career and ambition, that should be fostered, not hindered.
Right.
And don't, if you love someone, you'll want them to be who they truly want to be, not who you want them to be. Right?
Yeah, I get it.
So I think it's good to allow everyone to have their own, outlets, and jobs and career field ambitions. You can't control that. That's not even right to want to do that. You should want the other party to have their own identity. And
because if they don't, they become less about themselves. They feel less about themselves.
Right.
And they start not feeling, and that's when you get problems in a relationship for the most part.
I agree with you 100%.
When they have that, but
100%.
I don't know. Here we are.
I know.
Any of the questions?
Well, yeah, no, there are questions more.
Well, let them talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so is this day's market, is it looking like you're looking for a job? First 3 months you get to know and understand the person's long game. Where do they want to be in a year or two? Be friends first and then let the romance blossom? So what they said is a lot of stuff. So I'm gonna kind of break apart what they said here. Is it good to be friends with the person you're in a relationship with first, or is it good to get in a relationship first and then like kind of?
I like that question.
That's great.
That's a great question. Thank you. You go ahead.
Okay.
It's you.
I actually like this question for a lot of reasons. So 10, 15, 20 years ago, before all the avenues there are now to meet people, you had to actually meet someone. So I always thought it was cool. Last successful relationship I had, I was friends with the person for a year plus. Well, actually, it was longer than that. It was much longer than a year. We were just actually friends. And then it came that we ended up working out together as a couple later on in life. But now today, if you're trying to meet someone, we'll say through the apps or anything like that, there's already a pressure that you're on there for dating. So you don't get that same
100%.
You don't have that same opportunity.
I love this question. I'm like, I love this question because I talk about it all the time, and I'm like, why can't people just be friends? Yeah. Why can't you just meet on a friendly basis? And people are like, well, Ellie, they don't want that. I'm like, well, that's how I always was. I have to know somebody as a friend, and then how things go. In fact, I actually developed an app years ago, and it was called Just Friends Plus. And it was I developed this app in 2013, 2014. It was live. It didn't take off because I didn't know how to market it. But it was an app, like a dating site, and it was supposed to be just friends, and that's what it was about. It was to become friends and then to meet people, and see what goes on, because of what I was always hearing from people, that the pressure's on. The pressure is on. It's real. Yeah. Like when you meet somebody, it's like, why can't we be friends? Oh, I don't want to be friends. I have enough friends. Well, I'm sorry.
Well,
I mean, then how are you gonna? Why do you want to it's not instant. It's not an instant connect, and I think that's where people fall.
They kind of go off course because
they run if they can't have an instant connect. Like if you're not running down somewhere with them within 3 days,
Yeah.
like this ain't gonna work. I'm like, oh my God.
It goes back to instant gratification. They're looking for this and they want this right this minute. And
Right.
it doesn't have to be an instantaneous thing.
Right. It should grow. You want something to grow. It's like a foundation. It's like building a house without a foundation. I mean, you need something to hold it up.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you can, I think the strongest relationships out there are ones where people were friends first, and got to know and admire that person,
Right.
and that's what made them fall for the person. Is
I
the
agree.
qualities that they that they displayed, and it's the other person got a chance to actually see those qualities. So, what do they call that? Dating with intention is once they.
Well, just friends plus.
There you go. So my last question for the both of you guys, if you're in a relationship, is it okay for you to be friends or close friends with the opposite sex?
I don't go for it, but I'm strange. I don't know.
So
I think it just depends. It could lead into different things. I think it depends. I guess.
this one tears me a little bit because I tend to agree with Ellie. If you know the person, like really know the person, for instance, the married couples that I'm close friends with, I can be friends with their wives and their husbands as a unit, right? But if I'm just trying to be friends with the female, or if a woman is just trying to be friends with the male in the group, you got a problem.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a problem there.
And if it doesn't happen right away, it will happen.
There's
something's not right. It's somehow, I don't know. I just feel
there's ulterior motive.
Yeah.
Yeah. In most cases, there is an ulterior motive, and I think that's backed by what we see out there today, and the cheating that goes on, the things that go on I think it's.
But then we can also back that up by saying, if there's no physical, I mean, it could grow. A physical connection can grow too, right? Because that's kind of getting back to just being a friend and then something.
Right.
But I mean, I do think the physical aspect is huge in that also. Because if you're a little bit physically attracted to that person, it's more so that you don't belong hanging out together.
I would agree with that. You should probably stay away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and as a person, like I ain't bad looking, or that woman's not bad looking, you're not going to hang out with her as a friend because you already know the wheels are turning.
You're right. You're already thinking about what possibilities are out there. Right.
Right, Phil?
That's fair. That's a fair point.
No, that's a really good answer there. Also, I know I only had one question, but more questions popped up as you guys were answering that.
My allergies are killing me from whatever you had in this room.
I'm feeling it too a little bit.
Do you feel it? Like I can't even breathe out of my nose. I'm like puffing up here. I'm like, what's happening?
Well, that's the Glade air freshener.
Oh my God, it was terrible. Sorry.
So I know you are friends with your ex. Both of you.
Yeah, we
actually
are. Isn't that funny? Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Thanks, Phil.
Why do you think there's a negative stigma behind that?
I don't think it's a negative stigma.
Yeah, we didn't bring that up. I know. Yeah.
Well, okay.
Thank you for asking that.
I'll readjust my question. If you get into another relationship, there's going to be a problem if you're friends with your ex.
Oh, okay. I see where you're coming from. That's a good point.
No. Honestly, in the beginning, yes, because my ex-husband is with a woman in a relationship for years, and in the beginning it was rough. But see, we had a different situation because we have a business together.
Okay.
So we were business partners as well, so we, even after the divorce, we still had to talk. We worked together every day. We were still working together. So it was us setting our boundaries. Even though we would call each other up, we still call each other up. But when I lived in New York, he'd come to the house for dinner. He'd stop at the house and eat. But it was nothing in a physical aspect. It was just, he's going to eat something quick and he's going to run. But yes, it is a problem. But we knew we had to not, I said, out of respect, it doesn't look right.
So
Yeah.
Everybody I've ever met that knows that I'm still friends with my ex-wife, they've all thought it was awesome. They think it's really great that I've been able to maintain a friendly relationship together. I've known folks who weren't able to do that with their ex-spouse, and I don't know. I don't know that it's...
Well, it's not that the thing is, you should be able to be talking and be friends, but you shouldn't be probably hanging out, because that would be a problem. Like I said, we happen to have it, but then we had to like get to a point where, even though we have children now, do you have children?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so then I don't,
Same situation.
Yeah, so then it was like through the kids, but then but yeah, it would have been a problem. I think it kind of was a little bit of a, where I dated somebody and he was like, "Why's your ex-husband always at your house eating?" I was like, I said there was some ribs there. He went over to because he went to the house and he was there eating.
You gave him ribs. Oh, I can't be in a relationship.
But yeah, this is why he was in New York. He stopped at the house and goes, "Why is your ex-husband here?" He knew him. He's like, "Oh, just go in. It's fine."
Oh man. Well, I think we covered a lot.
Makes sense.
I think we covered a lot in this show today. This has been a good show. I gotta give you guys some Benadryl before you guys get out.
Oh my God! Listen to me. This is terrible.
But I think everybody loved it. You had a lot of comments.
I can't.
A lot of likes and shares.
My face is swollen.
That was a great show.
Yeah, it was. Are we done?
Do you have any advice, Eric, for anybody who's so let's say for the men out there who are recently single? I know you said get out in public and meet people, but do you have any other advice for them?
Couple of things. Number one, be honest. If you're not single, stay out of it. It's ruining the mantra and there's a stigma out there. If you're not single, if you're still in a relationship or still married, quit trying to date people.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Stop it, because it looks horrible. It's a bad look.
Well, there's karma to that too.
and there's karma to that. So number one, don't do that. It's all wrong. It's all junk. Number two, date with a purpose. If you're gonna date people, try and figure out what your end goal is. I know what my end goal is. So I know why I would want to be dating somebody.
Right.
You should think about that. Have a goal in mind. And the last thing is have good intentions. Don't treat people poorly. Be respectful and, be a decent human being out there overall, and be careful of casual situations. I would recommend people take their time.
I agree. Yeah.
Don't get into a situation where you're gonna wind up hurting somebody. Don't do it. It's a slippery slope. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Good.
You have any advice for the ladies?
No. Just take your time when you go on a date. Don't sleep with everybody right away. Don't give them satisfaction. Eventually, if you cut that off, eventually it's going to go dry. They're not going to be so. Sorry, it's that allergy. No, but the biggest thing is take your time. And, don't feel compelled that you have to sleep. And I'm only saying this because I talk to a lot of women and they almost feel compelled. Like, oh, I have to sleep with that person. You don't have to sleep with anybody.
No.
It's best not to. Take your time. Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. It's not required. It's
you don't need to. Yeah. If anything, I want to say charge.
Oh my God.
I'm just being sarcastic right now. Don't give that shit away for free.
Oh, Lord.
You're sitting like gold mine.
Well, guys, make sure you visit our website, storytimewithellie.com. This episode will be available on there afterwards. But that was a great show.
God.
That was we got to do more of these live shows, Ellie. I like that a lot.
I can't even breathe.
I know. I'll get you guys a Benadryl after this.
Shit.
But Eric, thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Eric. Thank you.
You got it.
All right.
Thank
See ya.
Yep. Thanks.